Hey everybody, my name is Mark Fittipaldi, also known as Petrify, and I'm one of the game designers and balance designers on Gods Unchained, and I also used to play high-level card games very competitively. Cool, so in this series we're going to be looking at some of the fundamental skills that top card game players use for matches to win and to get better at the game. And in today's series, we're going to be looking at card advantage and covering what it means, how you can employ it in games, and a few little tips and tricks along the way. So what does card advantage mean? To begin with, you must understand that cards are a resource. Just as mana and life total is a resource, the amount of cards that you have in your hand is a resource that you need to manage. So you want to have as many cards as possible in comparison to your opponent's hand. So if I have 5 cards in my hand and my opponent has 4 cards in their hand, I'm at a card advantage. So in this video, I'll be covering some of the ways that you can get card advantage over your opponent. So one of the most simple ways that you can get card advantage is by playing cards that give you other cards. So if you play a card that gives you 2 cards, then you now have an extra card in your hand compared to when you played that first card. So an example being, if I played Ambitious Adventurer, which says raw, draw a card, and it draws me a card, I now have the exact same amount of cards in my hand as before I played it. Now, I'm not at an advantage here compared to my opponent unless I get some use out of Ambitious Adventurer. So for example, if my opponent had a 1-1 here instead of this 2-4, and they were to trade that with my 1-1 Ambitious Adventurer, they would be losing a card because my Ambitious Adventurer replaced itself. In exactly the same manner, Backstreet Bouncer says Afterlife, add a rune to your hand. So if I was to use Backstreet Bouncer's body, the 1-1, to kill one of their 1-1s that didn't replace itself, I'm adding a rune to my hand and they're losing a 1-1 card from their hand. So I would be at a card advantage because I've not changed the amount of cards in my hand, whereas my opponent has lost one of the cards in their hand. So another example of getting card advantage is by playing cards like Sacred Law, which add multiple cards to your hand. So Sacred Law says deal 1 damage to your god. So you're sacrificing some life, which is a resource, to gain more of another resource, cards. So for instance, if we play Sacred Law here, it'll add 3 runes to our hand, and we have massive card advantage over our opponent because we have significantly more cards in our hand. So one of the most simple ways and most effective ways to get card advantage is by destroying your opponent's creatures without losing one of your own creatures. So there are a few cards in the game that deal damage or destroy things when you play them. So an excellent example of this is Amazon Hearteater, which says raw, destroy a creature with 3 health or less. We don't need to worry about the rest of the text here. So if I'm playing Amazon Hearteater and I'm destroying one of their creatures, and I get to keep my 4/4 body on the board, that means I have a creature on the board, and they've lost a creature on the board. So I'm now at a card advantage. There are a few examples of cards that may look like they give you card advantage, but actually don't. So an example of that is V-Rock. So V-Rock says Raw, both players draw a card, and Afterlife, both players draw a card. In this instance, we're not actually getting card advantage, even though we're drawing a card, because our opponent is also getting that card. So V-Rock is ineffective in that it is affecting both of us at the same time. There's examples of card disadvantage too. So Writhing Spirit is a card that says creatures damaged by this creature get burn +1, and it has a very high stat line of being a 1 mana 3/3, but it comes with the downside of obliterating a card in your hand. So if you play Writhing Spirit, you're actually playing 2 cards or losing 2 cards for the advantage and benefit of just playing 1 card. So this is often quite a bad thing and something you really don't want to be doing because you're sacrificing card advantage. In this instance, Writhing Spirit is often a really good play on turn 1 because despite the fact that you're going down in card advantage, you're gaining benefits in other areas. And you can potentially recoup that card advantage by trading and using Writhing Spirit correctly by killing off their smaller creatures. Another excellent way to get card advantage over your opponent is by playing cards that destroy multiple creatures at once. If each creature on the board is worth 1 card, or roughly 1 card, and I'm playing a card that destroys their entire board, so in this case we're destroying 3 creatures, the Acolyte doesn't count because it was created off the Battle Cleric here, then I'm trading my 1 card and killing 3 of theirs. So if we repeat this process over and over, where I'm always trading 1 card for multiples of theirs, eventually my hand is going to be full of cards and they're going to have nothing left, which means they won't be able to win the game because they're out of a resource that's very important. One of the most effective ways to get card advantage, and probably the scenario that you'll run into the most, is trading. So what is trading? So if I have a creature on the board and my opponent has a creature on the board, and we both run those creatures into each other and they both die, we've just effectively removed a card from each other's hands, so nobody's in an advantage. But if I have a creature on the board and I kill their creature on the board, and I get to keep my creature on my side of the board, they've lost a card and nothing has changed for me because I still have my creature on the board. So this is an excellent example of how to gain card advantage by not making a mistake in trading. So I have a 1/2 creature on the board that's going to heal up to a 1/3. My opponent has a 2/4 on the board. So a lot of newer players will often attack the 2/4 on the board and lose their Marshwalker, and then be down a card, because I've thrown away my Marshwalker into the Bright Mage and I haven't killed it, therefore I'm down on cards. Whereas if I just attack the God here and let this regenerate to 3 health, they can no longer use their Bright Mage to kill my Marshwalker. And then I can use my Black Jaguar to clean up their Bright Mage if they attack my Marshwalker, and I'll be ahead on cards. So let's see what happens here. So they attack my Marshwalker, and my Marshwalker lives because I let it regenerate rather than running into that. If I had have ran my Marshwalker into the Bright Mage initially, then they would still have the 2/3 on the board, but my Marshwalker would be dead and I'd be down on cards. Those are some of the key ways to get card advantage over your opponent. Thanks so much for watching the Skills series, and please tune in for more episodes in the future. If you have any feedback, let us know in the comments or on our Reddit or on our Discord. Thanks so much, my name's Mark Fittipaldi, and I look forward to seeing you more in the future.